So I want everyone to listen up and listen up good when I say this. I am not making up this final score. This really happened. Louisville beat South Carolina State 104 to 45. Subi, now I had this game. I got a very strategic setup in the household, right? I got the big screen, a quad box in it. Then I got like a dedicated screen where I need to lock in on a certain game. Usually like Michigan State. I had a little Michigan State, Arizona and what is it, Florida game going on as well. Kind of focusing on those games. And then like in the bottom left on the laptop, I had a little website I can't disclose, but a quad box on that one as well. And I had the South Carolina Louisville State game going on there because honestly, I knew that it might get a little bit out of hand, and I wanted to be able to tune out at a certain point if I wanted to. Boy, was I able to. Let me tell you that. This game was so ugly from the start that I thought that, there was a score bug going on because I didn't have the volume going whatsoever. But Louisville led at half 59 to 15 in this basketball game. They won the second half by 15 points. Shout out to South Carolina State putting up a 30 ball in the second half. That's good for their team morale. But Louisville wins this game 104 to 45. Everyone played in this basketball game. It was kind of just like everyone get a little bit here and there. Michael Brown with only 6 shot attempts in this game. Did have 6 assists, 11 points, very modest against an opponent like this. Javon Hadley, 13 points. Ryan Conwell fouls out in 19 minutes in this game. Really weird, only 3 shot attempts. Isaac McNeely had a really good performance, 17 points, 5-11 from three. And we got something from a front court member, with that being Kahani Roos, who had 20 points in this game in 21 minutes to go along with 7 rebounds. That was good to see. Subi, it's time, it's tough to take away things from games like this, but I'm going to give you the challenge to give me a takeaway from this game.
Yeah, before I do that, let me first and foremost apologize to the Louisville Nation here. I think last video in the preview, I had mentioned something about Javon Hadley, this being his first year. That was a mistake. I'm going to make more mistakes. All right. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a huge Louisville proponent. I love Pat Kelsey. I love what they're going to do this season, but I will own that mistake. So I apologize. I'm sure like my credibility is shot, but alas, as long as you guys keep bringing me back, I'm going to be here. But I apologize for that mistake. Takeaways from this game, you mentioned it. It's really tough to do it, but I'll give it a shot. The balance across the board from the starters was really impressive. I like that. Contributions across the starting five, but Ruth's that was he was incredible during
Yeah.
this game. Just really stuffed the stat sheet. Did it? He really made his imprint on the game. I don't know if necessarily the other forwards made their imprint. Frew had 6 offensive rebounds. That was pretty impressive.
Mm.
But Ruth's is a guy. I mean, by the way, Ruth's Frew, like that's going to be tough for us to jumble around. But Ruth's is not a guy that we keyed in on or honed in on in the preview. And I think this is something that can be something that he takes moving forward as a confidence builder. I'll tell you what, if you were in a Cardinals jersey, like there's no reason to not be confident moving forward. Another takeaway though, Cart, I think is that the defense was elite. The
Mhm.
only really intriguing part of this game as a neutral observer was to see if South Carolina State was going to get double digit made field goals. They
Yeah.
did do that. I think they ended up with 13,
Mm.
but I think they only had 3 in the first half. So, my big question, and it's going to be a big question for me until it's seriously quelled against real opponents, is Louisville's defense. It came and showed out tonight, despite the opposition. I still think, right, boat racing a team by damn near 60
Yeah.
and only giving up 45 points is impressive. So we talk about Ruths, we talk about their defense, and then just lastly, as a whole cart, the business-like approach.
Mhm.
Okay, you had mentioned you wanted to see an absolute thrashing, a beatdown. They may have even exceeded your description and your expectations. So this was a business-like approach from the Cardinals, a team that we know has huge expectations for the first time in about 5, 6, whatever amount of years, and they didn't play with their food. They let they made the Louisville crowd happy within the first like 10 minutes. And I'll tell you what, Cart, they edged out Illinois by 1 point in terms of beat down differential in the top 25. All
That's
right.
not, that's
I
not.
think I think Illinois won by 58. Cardinals, what they won by 59.
Yep.
So I believe that gave Louisville the largest discrepancy or largest win of any team in the top 25.
That's special, and that Pat Kelsey's got to wear that. And look, I'm all for like, playing a lesser opponent, but I don't know. I feel like I've always kind of stayed pretty consistent with this. Division One opponents are Division One opponents. I don't care who it is, what conference it's in, where you're playing, what the weather is, who you have, who you don't have. Beating somebody by 60 points is beating somebody by 60 points. And having the defensive effort that they had in the first half, I don't care who they're playing. They did have 3 field goals in the first half. South Carolina State in the first half was 3 for 29 from the field. They had one guy who made 2 of those field goals himself. They were 0 of 8 from three. Luckily, they picked it up at the free throw line a little bit. They were 9 for 12 there, but they had 12 turnovers in the first. I mean, it was just a domination in that first half, and Louisville kind of let their foot off the gas a little bit in the second half. But it was really good to see. I know you spoke about Roos in this one. He was a player who, coming off last season, I was like, originally coming to the season, I was like, I like Pat Kelsey getting Roos and James Scott back. They didn't end up getting James Scott back, but I think Roos is a player who showed a lot in some moments last year where I was looking to see what he would look like this year. In the exhibition games, I didn't necessarily see that. So this was a very, I think, positive performance for him to have. Um, Turnovers, I will say, to get nitpicky, are a little bit high for my liking. 17 turnovers against an opponent of this caliber is not something you want to do after they had some turnover issues, I think, in the preseason and in the exhibition games. Do you think the turnovers, are going to be an issue? Because look, I love Michael Brown. He's not necessarily like the true floor general type point guard. And outside of that, they don't really have that type of player.
Well, so we did an exercise, right, of doing our best stretching to try and see if there are any takeaways. But in the grand scheme of things, no, I'm not really taking away a ton
Hmm.
from this game. And so when you specifically talk about turnovers, it's not like I'm concerned about it. I'm not worried about it. Like you mentioned, it is nitpicking. I think a layered approach to that is, and you mentioned Michael Brown, he led the team in turnovers, or at least he was tied with three,
Hmm.
right? So if you want to really be doomsday about it, I suppose you can. But at the end of the day, human nature probably took over at some point or some juncture of those turnovers. You want it to be perfect. You want them to be locked in, but this was a complete tail whooping cart. And so if the worst you do is commit some turnovers and you still win by that margin, I think it's okay. And look, for those that are going to listen to me on these previews, and you know this now, and this is actually like a stark difference of ours, it's I'm not going to make sweeping judgments before honestly like Valentine's Day, guys. All right, and that's good and bad. So unless you
That's in
really,
that's in February.
I know that, man. Like I've seen way too many times a team get hot. Alabama was like the worst defensive team I've ever seen, and they went to a Final Four. They've somehow fixed it in March. And I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen with Louisville, but to answer your question, I'm not concerned about the turnovers just yet. And I'm not going to be like super concerned about the overall health of the team in terms of what they do. And this was just a really tough game to take anything away from, but it was a comprehensive victory.
I'm glad that we're both on these videos. I hope I do a lot of previews with you too, because I will be making sweeping judgments on a week-to-week basis. Maybe game to game if they're at two in the same week. That's just the kind of the way I operate. But on a more serious note, I mean, this is Pat Kelsey playing the hits. We put up 100 points. Everyone is scoring the basketball. We also hold a team to under 50 points. You look across the country, there wasn't many teams doing that, on the defensive end. Even, I was looking at that Houston Lehigh game. I was like, I don't see Lehigh scoring 40 in this game. They end up scoring almost 50 or 60 points in that basketball game. So I think a truly dominant performance that you want to see from a team of Louisville's caliber. To your point, when you have these teams that are like top 15, very highly ranked, very highly so you want to see them come in and you see levels when you do it. Like when Kansas sees Doug Gottlieb across from them, they giggle and they beat them down. That's what happened in this game for Louisville. This is what you want to see. You also didn't see, I think we talked about in the preview, there wasn't the Michael Brown, Ryan Conwell, my turn, your turn situation in this one. I thought that was pretty good to see. Even though Michael did have the 3 turnovers, he did lead the team in assists with 6. He was efficient from the field. He kind of looked like he was just kind of going through the motions a little bit in this game, given the state of the opponent, but obviously a lot more tougher games to go forward moving through. I will say this because you did bring it up. I'm Louisville's still going to need more out of their front court, mainly Frew. I have seen a good amount of that kid's film overseas, and I know that it doesn't always equate to success at the college level. But he looks like a shell of himself from what I've seen in some of the early stuff. Now maybe it takes some time, there's an adjustment period. To your point, maybe I need to put the same, patience with Frew, I'll give him a Thanksgiving.
All
Valentine's Day
right.
is crazy. That's in a whole nother year. I don't know if I can wait, but I think it will take a little bit of time, but I think it'll be massive for this team to have a presence in the front court because as good as Roos is, I think he's honestly more of a power forward than a center. Frew and Khalifa and Azugris are like the centers on this basketball team. And, Cleveland only played 10 minutes in this game, didn't really do anything. Uh, Zugris played 16 minutes. He turned the ball over 3 times in 6 minutes, but he's also like, looks like he just eats creatine for every meal of the day. So, like, I think he can bring a physical presence. But um, what is your level of concern with the center spot, I guess, or the front court?
I mean, it's definitely a question mark for sure. So that and the defense, right? Like I talk about the turnovers, not fixating on them. This game doesn't necessarily tell me that Louisville is going to be a good defensive team. Like this particular sample size was really good, but I think the defense and the front court production is going to still be a question for me. And I think it's particularly interesting for Louisville because Pryor's out. He's expected to come back whenever that is. I'm not sure, but we're going to have to see what PK does with rotations and what he does with those frontline guys. Because, like you said, Khalifa really didn't make his imprint. Frew, I had mentioned 6 offensive rebounds, which is pretty solid, but Ruth's was the one guy that really stood out and made him the head honcho, I guess, of the front line for now. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see when Pryor comes back. How does that? How does Pat Kelsey juggle those rotations and those minutes? Because they're going to need front court production for sure, especially if they want to contend for what I believe their goal should be is some sort of nets,
Mm.
whether that's winning the ACC regular season title, whether that's winning the ACC conference tournament, or going to a Final Four. I don't necessarily know if they're Final Four good. They have the potential, sure, but like there's a ton of other teams. But if you're going to compete with Duke, especially one guy in particular in Durham, right? Your front court's going to need to bring it. And so let's give them a little bit of time. And I know we're on opposite ends of the spectrum here. I do like what you say, though. You're like, I'm not overreacting. I'm
Hmm.
just reacting. Like, I
Yeah.
get that. I've just caught in my X amount of years watching this goddamn game. I mean, I saw Kevin Keats go to a Final Four, dude.
That,
Like,
you know
what? Like,
what? That changes a man.
yeah, it
That,
does.
that
Like
changes a man.
last year, all the big dogs went. All right, so for the first time in a long time, right? Yeah, we were able to see it. But even Florida, right? Like Florida entered this season at 23 last year. So by Valentine's Day, they were definitely rolling. But that's kind of the calculus into my decision. But yeah, the front court needs to make sure that they're productive.
Yeah, I mean that's fair to say. Hey, I'm all for you with that. But look, a dominant performance, with these recasts and previews, even given the opponent being a lesser, we want to try to, take some more things away from those. But in all honesty, we could have came on here and be like, just so you know, Louisville beat down South Carolina State. It was a dog walking. They locked down defensively. That's what a top team in the country should do. That's what a team who has, you know, Final Four aspirations, banner, net aspirations. You like to put them. Also, I like that. I didn't think about that. That whole cutting. Everyone's talking about hang the banner, hang the banner. Maybe it's much about cutting down nets. I kind of
Yeah.
like that moving forward. But Louisville has a long season ahead of them. They're not going to have a step up in competition the next game. They have Jackson State, but Kentucky is on the horizon next week. And I think we'll really get a good look at what this team is going to be. But look, like I said, we will have Louisville previews and recaps on the channel all year long. Be on the lookout for that Jackson State preview. We will have that up on the channel for y'all, and we will catch y'all next time.